It's the final round here at Croft this weekend of the Super 1600s and the Hot Hatches within the Toyo Tyres MSA British Rallycross Championship. And the pressure washers are hard at work because we've had a lot of rain, the road is muddy and slippery, and we're ready for the challenge of the final. After the 3 qualifying heats, it's Paul Coney ahead of Phil Chicken. Darren Scott has been quick, and so too local driver Mike Bogue. This should be a very good race. No semi-finals today because the Minis separated out into their own final. That means that Super 1600 and Hot Hatch just go straight into the final, with Paul Coney being the man on pole from Phil Chicken and then Darren Scott. Mike Bogue and Dan Lukaszewski are on row 2. Leanne Sedgwick, the Hot Hatch champion, has Craig Lomax and Lee Keeler for company. Paul Coney is 20 points ahead in the championship as the lights go green. Darren Scott, his nearest rival. Coney has got one hand on the title, one hand on the champion's trophy, but Darren Scott from the outside of row 1 means business. If he can't win the championship, he wants at least to win the last race of the year, and he's sideways as he hits the curb. Wide through the gravel goes Coney. Also wide was Bogue, and Phil Chicken's ahead of him, but he's very, very sideways. Chicken goes wide and he bounces off his teammate and heads for the tyres. A wallop! Phil Chicken into the tyre barrier, and he's got damage. That is a battered Chicken, I'm afraid, and he is stranded trackside. So Paul Coney leads the way. Round the outside comes Darren Scott, and he picks up the advantage. Scott hits the front as they come down towards the hairpin for the first time, and a red flag is shown. With Phil Chicken's car stranded by the side of the road, we need a restart. Take 2, the ready to race board glimpses, the lights go to green, and Paul Coney scrabbles away from the line. Darren Scott made a good start, first time of asking, is he going to be able to get up the inside and go through this time? Down towards Clairvaux, Coney tries to cover the line. Paul Coney, who is a very experienced, very successful rallycrosser, he does go wide again, not as wide. Darren Scott sideways on the inside line, and he couldn't quite repeat the move of the first aborted start. So Coney it is who has the advantage, but what can Scott do when they hit the loose? Let's see. There is Craig Lomax pushing on from lower down the order. Onto the loose they come. Coney versus Scott. It's Bogue next in the queue. Darren Scott again tries that demon line round the outside, and it pays out for him. Through he goes. Right round the outside into the race lead. And so Paul Coney, last year's Super 1600 champion, looking to do the double, knows exactly how to win a championship. He lets Mike Bogue have a go at him though. Darren Scott getting away, and Paul Coney comes under attack. Mike Bogue, the race preparation man on home soil here, muscling his way to try and get past Coney. Craig Lomax is in the mix as well. That's the Hot Hatch battle you're looking at. Leanne Sedgwick, this year's champion, fending off Lee Keeler, and then Dan Lukaszewski. Very wide goes Coney at Clairvaux. He's got damage on the back of the car. That rear valance will probably rip itself asunder in a moment. He has got tucked up behind him, Bogue, and then Lomax. Darren Scott getting away, and Bogue goes second. Mike Bogue up to second, Craig Lomax up to third. I don't think Paul Coney has been as low as 4th all season. He fights back now though. Gets good drive out of the corner. The trim trailing Corsa accelerates across the loose section. Heading now down towards the hairpin. Darren Scott getting away. 10 points behind he was coming into this last round, so Coney can't afford to be any lower really than that 3rd place. He drifts out wide. He's got loads and loads of understeer. He's miles away from the racing line, and eventually he will dig himself back onto the circuit. He's dropped a long way adrift now as they come down towards Clairvaux. Darren Scott leads the way, and there, lower down, you can see that Dan Lukaszewski goes through, getting himself up past Lee Keeler. The entry-level Hot Hatch category delivering big action. Mike Bogue is way wide. Has he got a puncture? He has! A punctured tyre for Mike Bogue. That might just save Paul Coney because it's going to give him another place. Lee Keeler busy battling. Gets all sideways at Hawthorne. Super 1600 continues to deliver big action for little cars, and so Darren Scott is the race leader. Mike Bogue battles on. You can see the damage on Paul Coney's rather banana-shaped Corsa, but here that punctured tyre as they come towards the loose is really the handicap. It's not too bad on this section, except when he gets sideways, and now Mike Bogue is in all sorts of strife, and that effectively is the game over. I don't think he can limp to the end on effectively 3 good tyres. So Darren Scott, it is in the race lead. There is Craig Lomax doing the chasing in 2nd place. He's had a really frustrating season, whereas Leanne Sedgwick, who has done more rounds than anybody in Hot Hatch and has kept out of trouble and banked the points, has already taken the championship and he's on target seemingly for another class win here, really pushing hard. Remember, the Hot Hatches, virtually standard trips, certainly compared to the proper race-bred Super 1600s. The gap between the leaders is coming down though. Darren Scott is being caught. Craig Lomax hustling on behind him. Darren Scott being urged on by his pit crew, so too is Craig Lomax being encouraged along as they go past the pits, now down to Clervaux. And a big lose for Lomax. Round he goes and off he goes. And unless he can drive out of there, Paul Coney has just been handed another haul of points. Darren Scott doing everything he can, but with the opposition self-destructing, boat with a puncture, Lomax in the gravel, Paul Coney now inherits 2nd place and will take the championship. Up to the chicane, turns right, turns left. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, you are dependent on the actions of others, and Darren Scott has driven a faultless race. The Citroën turns now out of the hairpin, up the road. Mike Boak trudges away. Mike has had a really unfortunate season. He's been quick, normally up as far as the semi-finals, and then either mechanical woes or today a puncture, or on occasions he's been incurring the wrath of the race officials. Well, here a punctured tyre puts him out. Darren Scott starts the last lap then. He won at Lyddon, he won at Pembrey, he's going to win at Croft. Leanne Sedgwick is on target for yet another win in Hot Hatch, where she has been very successful all season. And Leanne, the champion this year, starts her last lap as Darren Scott is on target for another race win and Paul Coney is on target for another championship. Darren Scott graduating from the Suzuki Swifts into Super 1600 this year, and as he got more and more familiar with the increased power, has done a very good job indeed. Paul Coney then, in this Harry Hockley built Corsa, is on target for 2 Super 1600 crowns in a row. But Darren Scott heads up towards the checkered flag. It is waved for him. Darren Scott wins at Croft in the last round of the Super 1600 Championship. Paul Coney will come through for 2nd place, and it's another championship after a great season. Coney won here at the start of the year, at Lyddon, at Pembrey, both at Mondello Park. He won at Pembrey last time out, and 2nd place despite the damage, enough in the final to give him the championship crown once more. Paul Coney comes through then to secure 2nd place at the end of a rather bruising race, and here, leaping across the loose down towards the final corner, Dan Lukaszewski. In Hot Hatch, we've had some great racing all season, and good to see new drivers coming into the sport, even in this final round of the championship. Lukaszewski goes through ahead of Lee Keeler. Time to catch your breath after all that. Darren Scott, the race winner. Paul Coney, the champion. Leanne Sedgwick, 3rd, and wins in Hot Hatch ahead of Dan Lukaszewski and then Lee Keeler. The champions, Paul Coney, the first of them. He wins in Super 1600 from Darren Scott, and it's Phil Chicken who secures 3rd ahead of Craig Lomax and Mike Boak. And in Hot Hatch, Leanne Sedgwick ahead of Shimon Zatilny, with Lee Keeler up to 3rd in this final round of the championship.